let's jump into it. So this past weekend, UFC Fight Night, we came out of it with a whole lot to talk about, and not a whole ton of it having anything to do with the actual fights.
Yeah, for real, dude.
I mean, we'll talk about that in a bit, because we did like a short episode that we didn't even end up putting out. So we made some predictions about the fights. Yeah. I was like totally off on some of them, but we'll definitely get to that. But I think the biggest news that
we were so right about the Ige fight, though. I give us credit. Yeah. We were like so right about that.
I'm proud of that one. I was just
that was a good one.
I don't see what this guy can do. I figured Ige would get back on the winning track. I was way wrong about Nasruddin Imavov. Well, one thing that I thought he would have some trouble with, the pressure, the forward pressure, and Sean Strickland not giving him so much room to use his kicks. That's kind of how that played out. But more than anything, my biggest takeaway from that fight, and I guess we're just going to talk about it, but is like more a learning experience for Nasruddin Imavov, because I think like, for as one-sided as that fight ended up being, like, it's not just a unique Sean Strickland problem, because I feel like there's, as much as I shit on the middleweight division, there's certainly other guys that can replicate that. And it might look a little bit different, but there's like, it's not a game plan that's unique to Sean Strickland, and how beatable Nasruddin Imavov looks coming out of this past weekend. But
exactly, he did not look good at all. I don't know if he needs a camp the whole way out. Like, this is who I'm fighting. Mm-hmm. This is how I'm fighting. Yeah. And I'm going to drill specifically to fight this way. Maybe there are guys like that, I would imagine. Sean Strickland definitely isn't one. And I think the broadcast booth made a good point, where sometimes it's not good to pretty much center your camps around just sparring all the time. But I think for this specific fight, for the specific time frame that he had to get ready for it, the fact that all he does is basically spar like a piece of shit makes it like, makes it okay or makes it easier for him to just get locked into a cage and like, okay, here I go. Where I feel like maybe Imavov is the type of guy where it's drills, spar, drills, workout.
Work on our work on our strategy too. Also, like, hey, this is the game plan we had, but that game plan went out the window with Kelvin Gastelum. Right. So, and then you got to adjust to Sean Strickland, who, like, to your point and to the commentary's point, Sean is. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know exactly, how Sean trains, but all we see is the sparring footage. So it's not.
Yeah, he says, I've heard a few different interviews with him. He's like, I spar with random people. I spar with people I don't know. They'll tell me like, these guys are good. Mm-hmm. These guys are good enough to be in there, and I trust them, so I get in. Yeah, I can see that. He just beats the shit out of them.
Definitely being a lot of benefit to that, in terms of just like being ready to go, not having the pressure. But I look at other guys in the division, and I think like a Marvin Vettori, who doesn't exactly have the same kind of output or strategy as Sean Strickland, but has the same kind of pressure that I think could also give Nasruddin Imavov some problems. For me, it was the head movement. I felt like his head was just there for Sean Strickland's jab all night, and I don't know if there's a solution to this, because I've always heard like it's really hard to do both. But I like Nasruddin Imavov's his footwork. I like the way that he bounces in and out of the pocket, and I know when you do that, it's really, really hard to incorporate head movement. It's like you have to do one or the other. But Sean Strickland is so content to fight up close and stand like just outside of the pocket that the moment he moves forward, Nasruddin has no room to kick anymore. And then
those teeps are just
really, really good. Yeah. And so like, and then he wants to kind of like make up for that with movement. So he wants to like bounce in and out, but it just wasn't working. I felt like the head movement would have helped him a lot there, which it's not that I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like Nasruddin doesn't know how to employ head movement. But he didn't in this fight. So
did it piss you off that the very end of the fight, he just started looking amazing? He just like, there's like 30 seconds left, and he's just why weren't you? He was like throwing knees because Strickland was coming in with his head down a little bit, and he popped him with a knee, and he's fucking 1-2 knee 1, 2, 3 body, 1, 2, 3 knee, and it's like, what, where was all of this for like 24 minutes and 30 seconds, dude? What the fuck were you doing?
I'm not gonna lie, didn't even watch the fight.
Oh shit!
No, yeah, I actually forgot about that. He did surge very, very late.
Yeah. It was like, dude, what the fuck? You look amazing. And then you had that in you? You had that in you after 24 minutes? Mm-hmm. How about at the end of every 5 minutes, you just give a minute and a half?
Yes. Try and still down.
Just a minute and a half. Because you could do that against Strickland. Because he's not going to hold you against the cage. He's not going to hold you down on the ground. He did have a takedown, right? Strickland did get a good takedown. But it was just like kind of fell into his lap the way Imavov was like kind of rolling up in defense, and he kind of left it open. But yeah. I just feel like, man, Strickland leaves it open to win a round. If you just, he's not, and I don't feel like Imavov should have really worried about his power. I mean, Strickland's a good fighter, but he's never going to knock you the fuck out in the last 30, 40 seconds of a round. Just fucking steal it. I just kept saying that, like, just steal this round. You could totally do that.
I was a little thrown off also by the instruction that Nasruddin was getting from Fernand Lopez in the corner. Also going into the third round specifically, where they were telling him to take it down, to go for, look for the takedown. Or they weren't directly telling him, but they said if it's there, take it. And I'm thinking, like, if you consider how he looked in that last minute or so of the fight, they should have been telling him, no, you're down 2.
You need to knock this fucking guy out.
Yeah, so I was a little bit concerned about that, and we've seen other instances where Fernand Lopez doesn't really have like the best corner advice. He's also the current coach of Cyril Gane. So we knew, well, we didn't know beforehand, but we kind of saw when in his fight with Francis Ngannou, when he came in with those knee braces, and there wasn't a whole lot of instruction about like attacking the knee or anything like that. I think there's a little bit of strategy lacking there. But
it's for the next guy he's gonna fight pretty quick. You're gonna want to figure out what the fuck you're doing in there.
Yes. Yeah.
That might be good to nail that down, Fernand.
More ring generalship, I feel like. I feel like controlling the space is going to be a big key to Nasruddin Imavov's success.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and run down the rest of the card really quick then before we get to like the big news.
R.I.P. Hownie Barcelos. Sorry about that, dog.
Let's get right into it. That's the one I was
right in there with
way off on.
Yeah.
I even on Verdict, I was looking at the multipliers. Now I don't remember if I think I officially gave, well, the episode didn't even come out. So, but I think I picked Hownie Barcelos on the show. And then on my Verdict picks, I saw that the multiplier for Hownie to win was crazy. It was like a 9x multiplier on Verdict plus like a 20x multiplier for him to win by knockout.
Is that like a red flag? Is that like a what? Like a okay?
A little bit. Yeah. To me, I saw that and I immediately thought like, okay, one, Umar's last name is Nurmagomedov. And two, like, people don't know Hownie Barcelos, so I think
he steals Nurmagomedov valor, though.
Yes, I was like,
he's stolen valor guy, though.
I saw that was going to be my prediction. I was even telling Mike, I was like, nah, everybody's sleeping on Hownie. He's going to come in tonight, and he's gonna become the Nurmagomedov killer, and he's going to get it done. Not what happened at all. Nope.
I was hoping. We love Hownie Barcelos. Well, we used to love him.
Short fight, man. Doesn't get out of the first round. And I don't really remember exactly what the ending sequence looked like. I think there was like a knee that just whiffed for Umar, and then he landed like a short like left hook or a left straight inside and just put Hownie Barcelos out. He was out before he hit the ground. He goes in for the finishing touches with some hammer fists. Once he realizes Hownie Barcelos is out, then he goes to like cradle his head. So, good sportsmanship from Umar.
That's the move, dude. That would spook me the fuck out if like the guy I'm fighting is like a few of his fights, he just kicks the shit out of people and he's just like holding their head down, like shh, like real slow. Well, was that Family Guy when he killed someone like that? And then he's just like, shh. What was that?
There was a Family Guy skit. I don't remember what characters exactly, but there was definitely a shh.
Yeah. That would be a fucked up way to die, dude. If like they just caught you with a blow and you have to just basically bleed out. That was on Drive too. Have you seen that movie Drive?
Yeah.
When he stabbed, he's like, "It's over. That's it." And he's just looking at him. That would fucking be crazy.
Yeah. Or you're fighting a guy and then you just blank out, and the next thing you know, you're like, he's cradling you in his arms and you're looking up at him and stuff.
Yeah. So. And then your corner's just fucking pissed. You're just looking over and your corner's just mad. Yeah.
So yeah, tough break for Raoni Barcelos. I'm sure he'll be back. He's gonna stay a factor. Big statement for Umar Nurmagomedov here. And I think we can really start. We're not going to do it right now, but when we start looking into this bantamweight division and seeing how Umar pretty much is probably going to crash definitively into the top 15 if he wasn't already there.
Oh yeah.
A lot of fun matches for him to make there. One match that isn't going to happen quite so soon, but I was thinking would be great. I would have loved to have seen Umar versus Merab.
Yes.
Some people might think that was a big jump, but I just heard or saw right now before we got on that Merab is now booked to fight Peter Yan, and that's going to be on a fight night. That's going to be on a fight night on March 11th.
Oh,
not too much else booked on that card.
I just found that out today, and I was looking at that. What's that guy? He's that Dutch dude on Instagram. Have you seen him? I think he's like autistic, but he drops the fight announcements like super early, and he has like I'll send you his thing. I'll send you his account. He runs, I mean, it is just like Tapology on an Instagram comment, and he tells you like top 3 wins, his win ranking or his current ranking, if he's ever been a champion in another promotion, amateur records, and then it's in English and in Dutch. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? But then you look at the guy and you're like, oh, he has autism, which, you know, isn't bad, you know, isn't like a bad thing, but it's just like, damn, dude, you're like zeroed in, dog. Right. And he's like calling fights for like April. There's like fights for like April. Dang. And he has them, and it's like every last little tidbit of information about them.
Just get it all out right away then. And he's not like, no, we're going to save that for April. But no, that's cool. Yeah, definitely send me that, because I'm always all about any resources that'll get me fight news like as soon as it drops. Yeah. That's awesome.
And it's random fights. It's like curtain jerkers, and he knows everything about them. It's pretty crazy.
So a couple other notable fights. Javid Basharat gets a really good win, unanimous decision win over Mateusz Mendonca. That's a good one. That's Basharat's a guy. Basharat and his brother are both guys to keep an eye on for sure.
Those are the Iraqi gentlemen or the Afghani gentlemen, correct?
Yes.
From the UK. Yeah, his brother is with a bullet, dude.
To touch on the WMMA fight, Raquel Pennington gets the decision over Caitlin Vieira. Pretty much the most predictable fight on the
I took Vieira, so card. Don't know why you'd say it that way.
Okay. Well, okay, I'll say this: the most, because it was a split.
No, you said it to make me look like an asshole. Because I was like, I'll take Vieira. Well, probably the easiest one. And old Chubbs over here blew it.
But don't forget, nobody heard that episode.
Yeah. Well, I'm throwing it out there. I don't care. I mean, what the fuck do I got to lose?
No, but I mean in terms of what the fight looked like. Because it was a split decision, so. I mean, it could have literally gone either way. It was a really close fight. You know, I know some people who thought Caitlin Vieira was, I mean, wrongly. I don't really think she won that fight. But, I mean, you know, there's people out there who agree.
I thought she lost afterward, and I thought she would win. Mm-hmm. I honestly thought she would win the fight by decision. But after watching it, I was like, nope, she lost.
So, Raquel Pennington, maybe. We'll have a date with a rematch with Amanda Nunes coming up pretty soon. We'll see what they decide to do there. I know Amanda Nunes has other options. She's training pretty hard. I think there's a handful of fights I'd prefer to see before that one. But hey, that's women's bantamweight.
It would be good news if she did fight Raquel Pennington, because it would just mean she has more fights left to go. Because if she's not going to take Raquel Pennington as the swan song, so.
That's a good point. Yeah, it would be an indication that she's not just like, okay, I'm in the legacy phase of my career. Because at this point, I wouldn't have been surprised if she was just like, nah, well, let's do an Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena rematch, and let's see if we could dangle the carrot for Valentina to Well, I mean, if you're Amanda Nunes, what do you give a fuck about fighting Valentina again? So, yeah, interesting situation there. And we're going to talk about her at the end of the episode when we get into our championship predictions for 2023, because we already talked a little bit about how we think that Nunes, this could be her last year competing. But then you look at some of the footage, some of the training footage that she's putting in, and whoever she's planning on fighting coming up soon, I think that they're going to have to deal with a very motivated Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, and she's like openly weeping on Instagram, like with her kids and stuff. She's like, I think she like took her kid to school, and she's just like weeping in the car. Like, I can't believe my
first day of school. I didn't.
Yeah, it's like, damn, because whatever kind of sazul she's on to is probably like fucking with her hormones. So she's just she's like, dude, she's fucking peak cycle right now, dude. that clit is just rock hard right now, dog. I guarantee you that Anavar is just coursing.
Let's talk about the big news, the big takeaways from this weekend. On the day of the fights on Saturday, I think it's the 14th, we all woke up to news, unconfirmed news, but photos started floating around of a digital banner outside of the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas that had a banner for John Jones versus Cyril Gane, and some people at that point might not have noticed that right under it said Heavyweight World Championship. I actually missed it. That wasn't the first thing I was fixated on, but my mind went to like, what does this mean for Francis Ngannou? And that is like the biggest news of the weekend for sure. I don't know if that was a T-Mobile Arena employee or a UFC employee. Either way,
that was not. You're not fooling anybody, guys.
You think it was on purpose?
Mistake, please.
A mistake?
They just didn't want it to seem that. We gotta announce it now. Old rocks for a brain over here fucking messed it up. Because who sits there? Who's in charge of that? Who the fuck is in charge of that?
That's the first fuck up like that I've ever. Yeah,
you're not gonna do that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a long shot that was, because I think also by now too, you get a statement from the person who fucked up. You get a statement from the T-Mobile Arena saying, apologies, our fucking apprentice or an employee or an intern, but nothing. The news breaks. Everyone speculates for about half a day. We were fixated on the fact that it is not for an interim title; it is for the undisputed title. So that surely means, because we knew that Francis Ngannou is in ongoing contract negotiations. You can fucking call them disputes with the UFC. They don't get it done, so he has already officially fought out the last fight on his contract with Cyril Gane at the beginning of last year, when we actually, I think it was the second episode that we did covering that fight. Fight Plug podcast origins there, and he's out. He's a free agent. He's in the market. They even waive their right to match any offers that he gets. So it's not.
Is that confirmed? Wait, is that confirmed from UFC, or because I heard him on Ariel say, and I have to say, at first I was like, good for Francis, and then I heard his interview with Ariel, and I was like, oh no, this does not sound good. Oh my god, I am so nervous because he's just going to be gone. I just don't know if he or even anyone really realizes that, or they do realize, but they don't want to tell him because he's such a sweet person. And I feel like they just don't want to tell him, like, dude, you're only as good as the eyeballs you bring to us. And once one championship, have you watched one? I mean, they have no one at heavyweight.
No,
okay,
there's no division. Yeah,
and then he's like, I don't have a manager, and they're like, okay, well, what are you gonna do? And he's like, well, I'd like to box. Okay, so I don't know if he understands that Dana is doing a really shitty version of what the boxing promoters do very well right now. So, and you're just going to go and do that. You're just going to go and do that with Eddie Hearn, or yeah, right. You're just going to walk up to Eddie Hearn. This guy's going to have the most ruthless pack of lawyers and accountants. And fucking, private investigators, everybody.
Who?
Eddie Hearn or, you know, I mean, I can't, guys like that, of that, you know, and they're going to sit, and then Francis is just going to be like, hello, this is my very much what this is very much what I like, and then they're just gonna be like, yeah, okay, sure.
There's Dana White's certainly not the last person in the world who is going to try and exploit Francis Ngannou. That's for sure.
If he thinks he knows exploitation from what like he saw with the UFC, he has no idea. Boxing is disgusting, dude.
In fight sport, I mean, I think it's pretty arguable that, like, Francis Ngannou, given his personal history, he knows exploitation. But in terms of the business and in the industry of fight sport,
for sure. Yeah. But I'm saying Dana's doing the best version of what he thinks that like a Don King does, or all these what these guys do, because. The thing is, he's seeing like Anthony Joshua. But these guys are Olympic champions. Alexander Usyk, these guys are Olympic fucking champions. They come in with crazy amateur records, and then the promoters in boxing, they will give you these huge contracts, but it's because they know they'll get 10 fights out of you. You're going to fight those 10 fights out, and you're gonna do it when we fucking tell you to.
Yeah,
and it's not like, I'll wait a year and maybe no, that's not gonna how it's gonna work, and they'll fucking sue your ass. Your ass will be in court. Just if you're not training, you're in court. I mean there's a reason like a Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua were like ready to go, and Deontay Wilder was like, no, I'm getting, it's in the contract, I get my third fight or whatever. So they're as much sticklers for the contractual obligations as anyone else. They're worse, dude. It's disgusting.
I'm not as worried about that for Francis. I mean, he needs to fucking find a manager if he doesn't have a manager. That's for damn sure. I don't think he's in a headspace right now where he's going to be signing like extensive multi-fight contracts with anybody, but he does need to tread carefully, because right now, especially in boxing needs to not be the first thing he does.
Sounds like that's what he wants to do, because Ariel's like, who do you want to fight in MMA? He's like, there's really nobody, so I'm probably like, I'd like to fight Deontay Wilder. And he's just like, you're just not gonna be. I'm just like, what are you thinking about, dog?
You can't go to boxing first, because boxing has already shown us they're not like mixed martial arts. When a boxer goes over to MMA and they try and kind of like cradle them towards a career in MMA, like they'll bury you in boxing. They're not interested in helping you along. They're going to put you in there with a Deontay Wilder, and he's going to fucking kill you, dude.
And he mentioned like, well, Conor did it, and it's like, well, Conor had crazy resources behind him, because the UFC, the entire UFC, their lawyers, their everything, contract negotiators, underwriters, everybody managed that behind Conor. Conor didn't just show up by himself.
No, the UFC got behind him and said, okay, we're going to co-promote this. And that's one thing I always tell people when they say like, no, UFC will never co-promote. It's like, they've co-promoted. When there's money to be made, they will co-promote, because they go into that with house money, basically, because nobody really expects Conor to win that fight, like going into it. Like, I mean, sure, you got to factor that, like, there's a puncher's chance, whatever. But I think that's a fair point, or something. I don't blame Ngannou for getting hung up on that, because like, as far as him, we can sit back and analyze it and be like, well, they did that with Conor because A, B, and C, and that's all very true. But if you're Francis Ngannou, I could still understand, like, dude, from my perspective, that's just straight hypocrisy. You let that guy do it. You sat there and talked about how I'm the scariest guy in the world. I'm the fucking undisputed and the heavyweight and the most. Let me go out and box and make a bag. But obviously we know why the UFC wasn't going to get on board with that, because Conor had already achieved a level of fame and notoriety that isn't going to be hurt by losing to the best boxer in the world.
Floyd wasn't going to leave Conor bleeding out of his ears like Tyson Fury did to Deontay fucking Wilder.
That's also true. Floyd very clearly carried Conor. Yeah.
So,
well, I want to ask you, if you're trying to like navigate the waters for Francis Ngannou, like what do you think the best move is for him? What's to do?
He has zero leverage anywhere now.
I don't see him. He doesn't have zero leverage.
We're not gonna. I hate to say this, dude. We're gonna see him fighting, like, fuck.
I think the best move for him is the PFL.
Who's there?
Well, that's the thing, though. We're talking about money for Francis. Yeah. Like, it's clearly that he wants money, and it's not so much about building legacy. And he could say, well, they can say that, well, with the contract we offered him, he would have been the highest paid heavyweight in the UFC in UFC history. We don't know what anyone gets paid, so they can just be talking about their ass for that. And he insists that it's not actually about money; it's more about what they're not letting him do. And if that's really what his focus on, I think he's going to find plenty of MMA promotions that will let him do A, B, and C. Oh, you want to also box on the side? Yeah, that's cool with us. We just signed the best heavyweight in mixed martial arts. I'd say he has less leverage for sure because he hasn't fought in a year. But I wouldn't say he has injured. No leverage. I think what we're doing is we're comparing what his ceiling is if he stays with the UFC versus if he moves on. And I don't think that it's necessarily either UFC wins or Francis wins. I think they can both win. And I don't think either really takes a loss in this case either, because like you were saying, most of the fan base that makes the UFC its dollar already forgot about Francis Ngannou. Like
if he, and if he also, I think people don't realize the point of heavyweight, even with John Jones now, is probably one of the worst divisions they have.
Oh yeah.
So, and you're the best UFC heavyweight? What does that even mean, dude?
Bottom 5 divisions, I would say.
Yeah. If he would have if it would have been like what the lightweight division is, and he had just ran through everybody, and he's like, well, I want to do this now. Okay, well, fuck, dude. That's scary. Pay him. But I don't, as shitty as it sounds to defend a gorilla pimp like Dana White, to say he's not dumb. He wouldn't just let the best heavyweight in the world walk away. You know what I mean? Or just leave and not be like, I'll fix this. I'll do something in whatever way he can. I just feel like he must see something that we don't. They get information. Francis was saying, like, my doctors are in contact with the PI every day. They're explaining to them what's going on. So if they just let him walk, they must be like, something's up with his knee, his health. We don't care. His health must be something's there.
I know he was definitely asking for some things that it's like, dude, you know you were never going to get a green light for any of that, because he said
healthcare.
Part of his asks for health insurance
for everyone, though, not for him. For right? Everyone, it's like for everyone. Yeah. Every fighter has an advocate. You can bring back Slim Jim on my shirt, and it's like, dude, you're
sponsorship. Yeah. It's like, what are you asking for? Yeah, it was one thing to ask for those things for yourself, which I wouldn't have blamed him for doing, because right. I mean, you have to go into business in a business where other fighters will openly like try and take your opportunity from right out under you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
By all means, go into business for yourself. But I think that. I think Francis, his best move from here is to find or to go somewhere where they want to build a platform or use him to build their promotion, and not just think of him as a one and done. Oh, we get the UFC, the former or the standing undisputed UFC heavyweight champ, and we could throw him into a fight and get some rub off of that, which is going to happen in boxing. And that's why I think with everything that was happening with PFL, like we were talking about the other day with Jake Paul, and if he can find somebody who's like, yes, we're trying to build a pay-per-view product that we can actually split the revenue 50-50 with the fighters, I think that's going to be his best bet, because if the money isn't his biggest concern, if they really did offer him, because I think Ariel asked him, like, I think John came out and said that he was going to get $8 million for the fight with Cyril Gane, and he asked Francis, like, did they offer you, is that what they offered you? And he said, around that. He didn't exactly answer, so he basically said pretty much, which I think is a yes. Yeah, they offered me $8 million.
And John's manager said as such too, right?
Like, it was probably John's manager that said it then.
Yeah.
So
because John's manager was on Monday, and he on MMA Hour, and was like, it baffled us what we understood from and. Okay, who knows what the fuck? Because it's John Jones's manager, so he's schlepping water for the UFC, like a whole lot.
Yeah, so for sure.
So, but I'm paraphrasing, but it sounded a lot like we heard what the offer was, and we had absolutely zero clue why he would just not take it. But whatever, we'll fight. John has to fight, so we're just gonna.
Well, I think that's obvious for them because John, I think in the same write-up or the same interview, I think he also said for John, right now we're just looking at Cyril Gane and Stipe, and then we're going to kind of like refocus and see what we're going to do from there, which everyone took as, okay, John's got a couple fights left in him. He's not here for a long time. He's here for a good time. So I think it's easy for his manager to come out and say that. Because you're looking at a guy who we're probably going to see maybe 3 more times, possibly 4 if we're blessed. Maybe he could be wrapping it up.
Hopefully against Yuri at some point. I have to see that. I have to see that, dude.
Yeah. So and I think with a guy like Ngannou, I think he has it in his head that he's going to continue to fight and compete, and I don't think he's necessarily looking to retire anytime soon. I could be totally wrong. I could totally, given what happened this past weekend and their failure to come to an agreement, I could also see if Ngannou manages to land a Deontay Wilder fight where he makes like a $20 million bag or something like that, I wouldn't be surprised if he retired, to be honest. But
just take it and go away. Yeah. But
that's the thing that's the second thing though. Like, just don't go straight into boxing, man. I think the PFL is going to be the move for him because I think they're not just wanting to get into the Francis Ngannou business for a quick buck. They're like, no, we could use Francis Ngannou to build this new pay-per-view model that we're going to try and jump off with. And I think it's going to help him to share, because like I was saying when we talked about the Jake Paul thing, I'm not thinking about Jake Paul in terms of like, who's he actually going to fight? He's not going to fight Francis Ngannou. Jake Paul is a guy who's just going to be there to try and help those pay-per-view cards, and he's going to be fighting. I mean, they just rebooked the fight with was it Tommy Fury? Is that his name? I saw that they announced that. So I don't know.
Tyson Fury's brother, right?
Yeah, Tyson Fury's brother. I don't know if that's going to be on a PFL card. But I have to imagine, like right now, if you're the PFL, you're probably thinking, well, shit, if we can get Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, Francis Ngannou versus a warm body, maybe like Kayla Harrison on the same card, and if before that happens, if Paulo Costa walks from the UFC or fights out his contract, you put all those on a card together, that's a pretty good splash. Like, that's a pretty good first. Oh, it's not even their first pay-per-view because they tried to sell Kayla Harrison on a pay-per-view. But I think that's like what they should be striving for. Now, I don't know what kind of money that pulls in. Like, I don't know what they have to price that at and how many buys that they have to get to give Francis Ngannou a bag similar or anywhere in the ballpark to what the UFC was offering him. But if he has his own sponsorships, if he has the option to go a box and everything, maybe it could be half and he'd be happy with that. The truth is, we don't know the numbers. I'm really curious to see what a card like that under the PFL banner with Jake Paul attached to it, potentially Nate Diaz, you know what I mean? There's some free agents out there who I think can help them build a really strong first pay-per-view outing. I don't know if they are going to have the roster to continue that. You can only put those guys, Nate Diaz isn't here for a long time either. You got to imagine he's going to fight 1 or 2 more times, outside of the UFC whenever that happens. So yeah, I think that would probably be the route. That would be where I would advise him to go.
Yeah,
because I could see them building a heavyweight division around him. You don't need a deep heavyweight division to make money off of Francis Ngannou. I think there's value in just putting Francis Ngannou in front of guys who he's just going to obliterate. And
I thought of all. That. I had the same sort of energy towards it that you just gave out right now, but listen to his interview today. I'm so sad. That's my son's favorite fighter. My son's 4 years old, and Francis Ngannou is his favorite fighter. I don't know how, but he never came to me and go, "That's my favorite fighter, Dad," or anything.
Right.
But since he's been a baby, when Francis has fought, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the energy that I'm giving off, like, oh shit, someone's gonna die right now, and then my son can feel it and like watches. Every time Francis comes out, it's like a superhero on television, and he's like glued to the screen. He'll do the like fight intro with his head down, waiting for just everything. And he's only really ever done that for he did that for like Francis, and he likes to sit around and watch the fights with me. When Francis is on, like, I think it's been 3 fights, but it's crazy because he's 4 years old and he's really only seen him fight 3 fucking times. So, but I can see a difference, and it's like, well, I feel like my son's never going to get that shot to like really see this guy do it again. And that who fuck me, who gives a fuck about me and my son? Who cares? But what I mean is, like, I just hearing him talk, because Ariel's like, he's like, yeah, they sent me an email with a contract matching clause, but I haven't opened it. And it's like, what? And then it's like, is your manager, he's like, I don't need a manager.
That's
and he's like, yeah. And then he's like, what? And then he's like, I feel like I can get the same thing as like a Connor did. What is this really? Because I thought he did this, and he's like, he's got some fucking shit bubbling on the burner, and he's just like laughing now that it came out this way. And so I thought he was going to come out on Ariel and just be like, check this shit out, doc. Yeah. And then I was gonna be like, fuck yeah, hell yeah, dude, fucking drag the UFC. They're not.
I think going back to what you were saying about like how that leak wasn't an accident, like who just accidentally posts a massive digital banner on the remote. Like, I do think that it was definitely by design that the UFC decided, like, oh, we need to announce this immediately. We need to announce that he's out. We need to make it sound like we dropped him. Like, we said, nah, screw that. We're stripping you of the title.
I've done that in relationships.
You're not walking away as the champion. Like, our friend groups are mixed,
and I'm like, I dumped that bitch. Yes. Fuck her. She's fucking. I don't care what she said.
And also, it puts the pressure on Francis. Like, as soon as you do that, the clock starts ticking for people to forget about Francis. And if he's not in a position where he can immediately say, like, yes, I'm parting ways with the UFC, and I'm going to blank.
Yeah.
And that's not there. So the longer he doesn't announce where he's going, and as soon as, because this is where Francis wants to completely frame the story of how his career is going to continue. Like, yes, I left the UFC, I'm going here, this is where you can find me. The longer you wait, the less likely that people are even going to pick up on where you're signing with or who you're going to be fighting next. Me and you, yes, other hardcores, sure, some casuals, sure, but there's a big contingency of UFC fans who are just like, oh, like, they announced that he's not in the UFC anymore and I don't know where he's at. Well, by next week, I'm not going to know. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
So I think they really put the pressure on him to, like, oh, if you have plans, please announce them now. But
to that point, he's like, no, I've been a free agent for months now. And it's like, well, then why didn't you say where you're going to go?
Yeah.
Because any fucking promotion with assault boxing, ONE FC, KSW, fucking M1 Global, whatever the fuck, would have 3 minutes after he said, I'm leaving the UFC, would have said, he's leaving the UFC for us because we're better than the UFC. They're not, but they're going to say, like, the world's baddest man is coming here. They would have done that. And
he needs,
all of that's gone. That's all gone. And the UFC is... So that's like lesson number 1, dude. They just fucking did that to you, and they did it in a sneaky ass, underhanded way.
If you're gonna make a move like that in contrary to the UFC, because it's not even a move against the UFC, it's a move. It's a move that Francis thinks is in his best interest. But when you're gonna make a move like that that's going to ruffle the UFC's feathers, you need to be prepared to immediately, like, you need to hit the ground running. Because when you're gonna be on the tip of people's tongues. And he's also got to watch out for promotions who are just going to muddy the waters, who have no real interest, or I'm sure they'd love to have him, but they can't really afford him. Like
Coker. Yeah, Coker's not. They can't give him the money. If the UFC couldn't.
BKFC came out and said, oh, yeah, we're definitely going to be in contact. No, you're not. You just want to have a headline that says BKFC.
You're going to DM him. I'll DM Francis right now, and I guarantee you it's the same amount of fucking reach that BKFC has on talking to Francis.
Yeah, they're doing it for a headline grab, but for Francis, that fucks up his like negotiation power to some extent too, because that's going to I don't know. I feel like that might artificially drive the price up. I'm kind of talking out of my ass here now too, but it gets tougher when there's people who are publicly claiming that they are interested in you or negotiating with you, and then you're over actually trying to negotiate with another promotion, and they see that. And that affects his money. It fucks with his money. And to be fair, I haven't seen much of it yet, but we saw it from the BKFC. I thought we would see more of it. And I think it might also come down to the fact that I think the UFC, if they wanted to, could have stalled out longer. And because they said that they waived their compete clause, their matching clause. So I think they probably could have held this out longer for 6 months, maybe another year, to say like, well, any offer you get, you have to let us match it. And they just, they forced him to just think on his feet and said, no, we'll waive that. You're gone.
And then he's like, they can match it. They can try to match it. Like, what do you mean try, dude? What do you mean try? You're just giving. It was just so disheartening. And then Ariel's like trying to like walk him into like this, like, and then it's going. Ariel has nothing when his hands are just flying, like flapping. Ariel's like, you gotta, because and then
audio podcast
there. He's just rolling his hands, like, say the right words here, and then. He's not, and then even Ariel because Ariel took a long pause and just goes, shit, because they had John Jones' manager come on and basically say like, we have no idea how Francis walked. We really wanted to fight him. It would have been the best thing for us, but hey, we got to do what we got to do here, and he was like. And then Francis came out and did it for himself, and none of it sounded good. All of it sounded so bad.
Well, let's talk about the other half. The other half of this news. John Jones coming back.
Amazing.
Finally, after
this is so cool, dude.
After more than 3 years away from the sport.
Yes. Fought since we talk about him every pod, and he hasn't fought since we've had the podcast. So
huge news. A tremendous fight with Cyril Gane.
Absolutely.
Cyril Gane has been the guy the whole time. Him or maybe Curtis Blades. I wouldn't scoff at any of those fights. I would love to watch him against any of those guys. But
so brave of Curtis Blades with his disability to even be in the conversation.
Cyril Gane has been the guy who I wanted to see welcome John Jones to the division for a little while now. So I'm like, that's dope. That's exactly what I wanted. And it's for the title now. Whole lot of intrigue. I think this one's going to do a lot of numbers, but I want to know what you think about the matchup. I want to know. I feel like I can make a prediction about what you think or how you think it's going to go, but I want to hear you say it. Like, who do you have in this fight? What are your quick initial reactions?
John Jones is going to give him that dirty ass heel to the inside of his knee. He's going to push him up against the cage and dirty box the fuck out of him. And it's going to be a dirty ass elbow on the way out, and he's just going to ground and pound him to the. That's what I think.
Now, ring rust doesn't affect everybody, but I would argue that we've seen it affect John Jones.
It has.
And he came back after an extended layoff, and he came back against OSP. He really didn't look like himself. He underperformed in that fight. Any concern about the amount of time that he's taken off?
I'll preface everything that I said in the previous statement that I just made as I'm fucking stupid. I'm a John Jones fanboy. I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, and there's absolutely no way for me to be have any type to kind of maintain any type of competency and speak as confident as I just did. So that just shows you how stupid I am. But
you got to give yourself more credit than that. But
no, because John, we haven't seen the last fight. Yeah. The last fight John fought was one of the worst fights he's ever had.
True.
I mean, if we're just being honest.
Yeah. The last two fights, with Santos and Reyes.
And both of those fights haven't aged well. Mm-hmm. It's not like he beat the shit out of the guy who's the current champ right now.
Good.
You know, he has beat the fuck out of Glover.
Yeah.
But that's like, Glover's like Cell. That's Cell. He's final form Glover right now.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, what the fuck are we going to see? I have a feeling, though, he's just... because he's just a different type of athlete that the UFC just does not have. They just don't have all the time. Like, there's football players. He's more of a football player than he is a fighter as far as like athletic and makeup wise, where some of the guys they have nowadays especially go through injury, go through all these crazy things, and they just come back and they look absolutely amazing. And I think he's on some of the best performance enhancing drugs that money can buy. He's been on them. Yeah. He and Amanda Nunes would fucking piss straight through the bottom of that fucking container right now, dude. That shit will fucking blow a hole if they try to test him right now. There's absolutely zero chance that he doesn't have everything in him. And he's not even getting tested, right?
I don't know what his current...
He got tested like twice.
He has to be though, right? Like
he is getting tested, but they said something like he's been tested twice or something. And Yuri, what has Yuri been tested like 16 or
double
like some crazy amount of time?
And we're talking about a guy who lives in the Czech Republic too, on the other side of the hemisphere. For him to be testing, for them to be testing him that much,
with no previous dings on his record.
Yeah,
you would think like
when he fought in Ryzen. So, but
I mean, hey, but so that's just where my mind goes, is that he doesn't have the mindset of the normal UFC guy, where it's kind of like I think he's just, I'm a fucking killer. I'm all out. And then he hasn't lost. It's not like he's coming off, because like GSP would take time off and kind of have, I think he had those losses under his belt. He kind of was more of like a intertwined with his own body, his own self. A lot of guys are like, I just think John is just a different type of person for some reason. And I think he even knows, like, dude, I fucked up so many times in my life. This is it for me. At least that's what I hope he's thinking.
Yeah, I think motivation is probably going to be the biggest factor, because we've kind of gotten some insights about how John's mind works and how he ticks, and maybe that's not an issue anymore. But we've heard about the whole I was partying, doing coke the week before Alexander, and when he admitted to Joe, I was kind of doing that because I was afraid, like I wanted to build an excuse in case I lost, which has always been like one of the most fascinating insights into any fighter's mentality.
That's how football players think, dude. That's a football player mentality, like that they just think that they're the best of all time. Every single one of them does, for whatever reason, and they just want those, like, that plausible deniability to say, well, it was because of this, dude. It wasn't because of anything you did.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's always been the thing, that, because I guess we don't get so many insights about how fighters think in this sport since Dana just wants them to all act like reality TV show characters. You know what I mean? So it's like we don't often get legit sincerity like that.
Yeah.
But I think if he's not completely motivated by money, if he really wants to come out and make a statement, and we know he does, we know he's been working on it, and he's been taking this amount of time to go up to the heavyweight division, whether is enhanced or not. Like, he wants to be a legit heavyweight. It's not an experiment for him, I don't think. Yeah. I do think that, we talked about it, the ring rust issue. We saw how he performed against OSP back when he came off a layoff. That was a long, long time ago, though. We saw that, his most recent performances, which were also a long time ago, weren't great. I do think that we might see him kind of like figure out what it feels like to really go with another heavyweight in the cage that night, because I don't know who he's training with. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know the guys that he's going with right now who are going to make him really feel that, who are actual fighters. You know, what stable of heavyweights is he working with in the gym to get him ready for this fight, that aren't just like, oh, this is a massive guy who taught you or who showed you how to like grow your muscles and be fucking huge. But how does that feel when a guy who's been fighting at that weight for his entire career gets a hold of you, and what the difference in that strength is going to be like? It might not be a factor at all. He might just totally dominate. I just
don't think he's the greatest fighter that's ever lived, man. That's really what it is. And it's hard to say that he's not. Steroids, whatever. Everybody takes steroids. Everybody does. So I really can't. I just don't. I don't see any way. And this is coming from a huge, like, I have a huge blind spot towards John. Crazy. Like, I don't see any of the bad shit he did.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's crazy, dude.
Didn't happen. What are you talking?
No. It's not that it didn't happen.
I know,
it's that it doesn't. I think it does affect some people. I think he's enough of a sociopath to. It doesn't matter to him,
and it doesn't affect your like objective opinion about like what he's capable of in the cage. Also, I think there's that too. Like, you know, for some people, the absence, you know, or not having that reminder there constantly of like what he's capable of and what he did, because John's career is long enough now that there are plenty of people watching this sport now who have never seen a John fight, who have been fans for a while now, and maybe they remember his last few fights. Like, there's probably people who consider themselves like big fans of MMA right now, and they've only seen the Thiago Santos and Dominic Reyes fight. So like their idea of like what John Jones is like so
skewed.
Yeah, so skewed. Exactly. That's a perfect word for it. And then, you know, there's we saw what happened with Cyril Gane and Francis Ngannou, with Francis out wrestling him. So Francis does that to him. What is John going to do, man? It's a tough one. It's
not. And then if he knows that you have any little bit, John is the best in fight. Where I don't know, and a lot of this I think had to do with his camp at the time, when Jackson was training him. That was like the best. When Greg Jackson was the best, at least at the time, the best tactician in fight, of being able to really like switch gears. You didn't have to with John, but if he ever had to, he was able to. And John himself is amazing at kind of not getting too caught up in the moment. And I think that's what we saw with Reyes and Santos, was like, I'm winning. I don't have to really do anything special to win this out. I'm the champ. Just get to the end of this.
And John will exploit your weaknesses too. Yeah, that's another thing too. Like, I don't say this to bash the guy or anything like that, but John is a villain. Like,
he's a terrible person. He's a sociopath, dude.
And not even like in a personal sense, it's very easy to say that, but like, he brings that into the cage, and if he notices, if he sees that you're injured, he's going to attack that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Some of his tactics in the past, the eye pokes, that was always the thing that he was very, very famous for. And hindsight, you know what I mean? Going back and looking at some of it's the Rampage one that I always get caught up on, where, I mean, I'm going to demonstrate it, but people aren't going to be able to see it, but he's just there like that with his hands. Yeah. Just imagine you're fighting John Jones, and this is what you see in front of your face the whole time, just fingers right in front of your eyes. He is going to tactically get any edge that he can in or outside of the cage.
He's like a CEO. He has a CEO mindset where it's like, I'll do whatever the fuck I have to do. I'll say whatever I have to say. Yeah. I don't care if a million cameras on me or it's just me and you alone. I want this result, and it's going to happen. Yeah. And he has all of the physical attributes that surpass you, and he knows that. It's a perfect. Sometimes things kind of melt together to be perfect. Because some guys just have that mindset, but their bodies just don't allow, their abilities just don't allow them to.
Yeah.
Or they have the body, they have they're a Ferrari, but they just can't mentally get themselves to that place. He has all of it, and he's a fighter, and he's willing to do shitty things to win.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. So
he's got another I don't even know what the metaphor would be, but he's got another gear in him that a lot of fighters don't have. I mean, it was his two brothers who are Super Bowl champions. Like he's made of something else. He's got.
Yeah, it's not. You can't quantify it. Yeah. It's not for guys like me and you to put into words, because it's just him. To
speak, to kind of like speculate or think about how Ciryl Gane could get the upper hand here, or at least what his paths to victory are, though. I think there's some interesting looks there that the stars will have to kind of align a little bit in order for us to see it, but I do think he can make the fight interesting, because if it stays standing, I'm gonna go with Ciryl Gane. I don't think it's going to stay standing. I'm sure John is going to attempt to take down, and he's probably going to get it down, but if in the stand-up, I think Ciryl Gane definitely has the edge. I don't think he's going to have any trouble with the reach of John Jones, and I think as far as like his what he has to offer, the tools in his toolbox and his striking game is way ahead of John's at this point. I think there's that. Grasping at straws here, but I'm not concerned that Ciryl Gane is going to lose any kind of a mental battle before he even gets in the cage with John. Ciryl Gane is just a straight up athlete, like in every sense of the word, and I don't mean to say that like in terms of my triangle assessment, like athlete, fighter, martial artist, but he's so outwardly in the athlete zone where it's like, he said it multiple times, like, none of this shit matters. I'm not taking it personally. It's sport. I'm going out there competing. It's just competition. And I think that is something valuable to have if you're going to be locking horns with John Jones, because John, you know, he has that in him to make it personal. He has it in him to get under your skin, and we've seen, you know, even if it's with his words, or if it's just with his reputation, or, you know, the fact that he is as dominant as he is, we've seen guys lose to John before they even get in the cage with him. We've seen the Anthony Smith type of performances, and there's more examples. I'm not worried about that with Ciryl Gane, but ultimately that X factor, that wrestling. And wrestling that nobody else in that heavyweight division has even given Ciryl Gane a taste of, I think might blindside him and really, really make it John's fight to lose. You know, it's the ball's in John's court for sure. Yeah. I just feel like I don't see it anyway. I see Curtis Blades has a better chance at beating John than Ciryl Gane does. I agree. I would be super, super excited for that fight. Yeah, no, I think Curtis Blades, honestly, of the guys at heavyweight, Curtis Blades, I would say at number one for like.
And his last loss, and John's last loss came to someone with a disability. Always remember that. So his next loss will come from a guy with a disability. So, and a verbal one.
Shout out to Matt Hamill.
Yeah, the Hammer.
Oh man,
who supposedly he's like a piece of shit, right? Didn't he do some like really fucked up shit to a chick or something?
I don't know.
Just straight dragging.
Okay. No, you're forced, like, because of the way that you described that.
He did something crazy.
I gotta Google it. We can't just be on here. Hey, I heard he's a piece of shit, and then it just be totally.
Didn't he torture a 12-year-old Taiwanese girl?
Okay, Matt Hamill. We're gonna fucking find out right now.
Yeah, please.
Matt Hamill.
I'll own it. I'm a piece of shit for bringing that up if I'm wrong. Maybe I just put that in my head because he's like the only guy that's ever beat John. So I'm like, he had to be a piece of shit.
Not seeing anything. I
good. Good.
I just Googled Matt Hamill, and just, you know, the typical stuff came up, and then Matt Hamill controversy, and nothing yet. Which, you know, maybe dig a little deeper, but nothing on the first page of Google.
He has good PR. A good PR team. They wiped it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Let's break down a little bit of this UFC 283 Teixeira versus Hill card that's going to be coming up this weekend, and get into these fights, because we have a light heavyweight title fight in the works. Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill. Glover, of course, you know, kind of finding himself in the championship picture once again after Jan Blachowicz and Ankalaev fought to a draw.
God loves Glover Teixeira.
You said it
as much as we do.
God loves Glover. He's going up against Jamal Hill here, who is 11-1, and I believe, let me open up his page, I think he's on a 3-fight winning streak right now, all knockouts. Yes, Jimmy Crute, Johnny Walker, Thiago Santos, round 1, round 4. So he's been getting it done. Dangerous fighter, but style-wise, like a hard fight to overlook Glover in, because we all know kind of like where Jamal Hill's weaknesses are coming into this fight, and we all know what Glover Hill's strengths are. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me where you're going. Is there a path?
Glover trains with who Jamal would like to be.
Dang.
You know what I'm saying? Jamal
really...
would love to be Alex Pereira, like looping, fucking strong ass one punch knockout. Well, he trains with that guy, so you're not going to show him anything that he hasn't seen. You're not going to show Glover anything he hasn't seen before.
Exactly that. Yeah, Glover has seen it all. I harp on experience. It doesn't come into play in every fight, but
he was beating the actual champ, the man who is the champ right now. He was beating him until he wasn't. So it's like, what the last that we saw of him was, I mean, yeah, he lost to Yuri Prochazka. It was the fight of the century, or our fight of the year. But he was winning that fight up until that point. In my very humble opinion, if it would have went to decision, he probably would have won, I think.
I'm looking at it right now, and I don't think anybody who Jamal Hill has fought has even like come close to like many of the guys that Glover Teixeira has beat.
Yeah, I think he can though. That's the thing though. He can beat Glover. So that's the good thing. He's not coming in as a wrestler who hopefully can just outpoint you. He's coming in as, his name's, was it Sweet Dreams?
Yes.
So that you get that name for a reason. So that's good that you can do that, dude. Just do that. Figure out a way to do that.
I think, yeah, and I mean, indulge or see if Glover will indulge you, because I mean, Glover for the longest time, he's always been a threat on the ground, but he came out as a knockout artist in the UFC. Like that's how he kind of like made his debut, and I think that if he finds some success there, Glover's not necessarily going to be super quick to try and take the fight down. I think you kind of have to touch up Glover just a little bit to make him flip that switch and be like, okay, buddy, now you go down to the ground. And if he can draw that fight out of Glover for long enough to catch him, there's a path to victory there for Jamal Hill. I'm not saying that it's likely, and I think that there's also
in Brazil and in front of his grandpa, you're not going to do it. And then everything Glover said since the Prochazka fight is like, dang, dude, I have to stop being fight of the night. I have to be performance of the night, not fight of the night.
Glover, and I think boring Glover in this.
Yeah, and for him to be self-aware like that, and I think he's been. I know he's coached in the past, but to now be the coach of another division champ, he probably has that like bird's eye view of like what it takes. So he, I mean, not to say that he didn't before or anything, but I'm sure in his head he's like, dang, dude, I can't go out and have. How many of the Yuri Prochazka fights does he have? He can't. No, he can't have any more. Yeah. He must know that. So I think Hill has a better than average shot of winning with his skill set and his nuclear option. But the fact that the guy who he's fighting with just knows how to not get knocked out like that. I mean, to train with Chuck Liddell, your formative years were training with Chuck Liddell. You have to know how to get the fuck away from something like a crazy ass punch. Like they're just, so I just find it hard to, because Yuri just had what it took to beat him in that moment.
Yuri was a force of nature. Yeah, so very obvious our early pick there. It's going to Glover Teixeira. Not even an early pick. This fight's happening this weekend. But we're both firmly in the Glover Teixeira camp there. I think that amount of experience alone is just insurmountable for Jamal Hill at this point, I think. But
he's a live underdog though. Live. Jamal Hill's a live underdog.
Live underdog. It would surprise me, but yeah. Yeah. Let's get into this co-main event. Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno, 4 for the UFC Flyweight Championship. The sitting champion, Davison Figueiredo. Brandon Moreno comes into this as the interim champ now. So, technically there's 2 belts there. Who the fuck cares? They've fought each other for 3 times in a row now. Well, not Brandon, actually. Brandon had that fight with, was it Kai Kara France? But yeah, Davison Figueiredo hasn't fought a guy not named Brandon Moreno for a while now. I think that these guys know each other in and out at this point. Like, so rare that you get 2 fighters getting into the cage to have this extended, just experience, have felt each other this much, unless they're, former training partners or something like that. It's not something we get much in the sport of mixed martial arts, especially in 5-round, competition. It's one thing for them to be 3-rounders, but no, these guys have shared a total of 25 rounds, 24 and a half rounds or something.
Yeah,
so
it's insane, dude.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy one. And for every
James Krause.
Fights, for every
James Krause,
the biggest point. Thank you. Brandon Moreno.
Sorry, I just fucking derailed it. You're gonna fucking just boom drop that.
No, I wasn't gonna say it yet, but yeah, that's probably like the biggest factor in Brandon Moreno's corner coming into this one, because he had to kind of adjust his training camp. What was it, about a month and a half, 2 months out? He was training under James Krause, who we all know is embroiled in this UFC betting scandal. And that's an ongoing thing that, we're sure to talk about again. Brandon Moreno, he has to call an audible there and hook up with a new coach. Do you know who he's training with now?
He has a coach that he's fought with, like a Mexican coach that he's fought with for a long time. I do not know who he switched to.
I feel like I read it, but I don't recall. I want to say he might have went to Florida, but I could be thinking about another.
Hopefully he's nowhere close to Mexico right now. Like, he went through his training camp. Hopefully he's not even anywhere close to there.
Yeah.
Or any member of his family, for that matter.
What I was going to say about these 2 particular guys is that I don't think I've called any one of their fights correctly. Between Davison and Brandon. Yeah. Every time it comes up, I'm like, this time I'm leaning Davison, and it's Brandon, and vice versa.
Right.
I almost feel like I am becoming less familiar with these fighters.
Yeah.
Because they've only fought each other for so long.
Yeah. Good point, man.
But
Moreno looked like a fucking savage against Kai Kara France. And Kai Kara France, well, I think he kind of... His Kai Kara France against Askarov was kind of like a weird fight, right? From what I remember, it was a decision, but it was contested.
It's a unanimous decision for Kai Kara France. Yeah,
but a lot of people said it was it wasn't so clear cut. But who cares? I mean, he's nowhere even close to the. But it's just that's the only outlier guy that we can go off of that they haven't fought. So. Mm-hmm.
Good point. Yeah, as far as common opponents, I don't know how to break this down. All I know is that when they fight, it is entertaining. It's back and forth. It's a very evenly matched fight. I think that we've seen instances in the past in their previous bouts where it looked like Davison Figueiredo was having some trouble with the weight cuts, and I'm not entirely sure how much those ever factored into the outcomes of their previous fights.
He also dresses very zesty. Have you seen him dress? The way he dresses, he's a zesty ass motherfucker.
Davison Figueiredo's a swaggy boy. Former hairdresser and all of that. He gets down on that. He's definitely likes to keep up appearances. But not so much in between fights. He's not a guy who's necessarily keeping his name out there so much. Yeah. I think this is going to be one for me where I'm going to have to wait till the day before, see how this weigh-in drama kind of plays out, if Davis is going to have any trouble there, because I feel like that's the only thing I personally have to lean on as far as gauging this fight and seeing like how competitive or not competitive Davison Figueiredo is going to be for me, because since their second fight when he had the gnarly weight cut issues, or was it their third one where he had to be hospitalized the night
he
before?
Had one that was wild. Yeah,
in my mind from then on I was like, okay, he's got to wrap this up with Brandon Moreno, and then he's got to go up to bantamweight. So I've been kind of thinking of him as an unofficial bantamweight for a little while now. I don't know. I think Brandon Moreno has the momentum behind him. I think he's hungrier for it. Davison Figueiredo, I think, might be looking at potential. He might be looking at opportunities. Like I said, at bantamweight, I think it's wide open for both guys. It's a tough one. It's a pick one. It's a pick 'em. I'm going to go with my heart and say Moreno, but
same.
Yeah,
Got you. I can't take Figueiredo. I like Davison Figueiredo a lot, though.
His name's the God of War, man.
Yeah,
I saw that meme earlier where it's like a younger Brandon Moreno from when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, and it just looks like McLovin, just all unassuming.
Yeah,
This guy beat a guy who they call God of War.
Yeah, he is the all-time like flip the switch person though to me, and that's very scary when someone is like that, because I know someone like that where you just, if you spent every second of the day with them, you just would not think. And then when he gets put into a situation, I have a buddy like that. He was just like down for Zelda. He that was like his favorite thing was Zelda and nostalgia video games, and he just sat there all day long and played Super Nintendo and like OG Game Boy. But he got into a fight and he just like kicked the shit out of people, and it just like, where did that come from? Like, you were playing Paperboy on the way over here. And he just kicked the shit out of the guy. So for someone to have that in them and to get to that place from such an innocent place, you can't really.
I think they describe it as having that dog in them.
Yeah. Well played, sir.
Third fight of the night from the top, Gilbert Burns back in action against Neil Magny. Neil Magny coming, I believe he's still coming off of that loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov. Gilbert Burns coming off of his loss to Khamzat Chimaev last year. They're both blocking horns at Gilbert sitting at 25-0, Neil Magny 27-9-0. Both guys looking to get back into the win column in this pretty deep 170-pound division. Not a fight or a matchup that makes a whole ton of sense for Gilbert Burns in terms of kind of like staking his claim towards title contendership again, and with the way that things are.
I think he said no one wanted to fight him, right?
It's been
like
having
no one wanted to fight him.
Whole lot of trouble getting fights. Yeah, Gilbert Burns, a tough guy. He's not a marquee guy, not a guy who moves the needle so much, but he's an exciting fighter. Yeah, it's not too many bad Gilbert Burns fights I could think of outside of, I guess, his fight with Kamaru Usman wasn't the great. He kind of like laid an egg in that fight.
It's happened to everybody.
There's a good point. Yeah, I mean, how much can you really judge him for that?
I mean, Edwards was 30 seconds away from saying worse.
True. And now we have Neil Magny, the always game Neil Magny. Is the guy who answers the call. Of course, it would be a guy like Neil Magny, or if it wasn't him, it would probably be a guy like Bilal Muhammad. Which, do they train together, Bilal and him? I don't think they do. But I think this is a Gil Burns fight. Neil Magny, I think he's going to want to close the distance and do what he does best, which is kind of hold you up against the cage, use his height, throw in volume. And I think it would probably behoove him to use that volume striking and stay on the outside. But Neil Magny just loves that clinch so much, and it's a risky place to be with a guy like Gilbert Burns, because Gilbert he has the wrestling to do it too, but he really just needs to get his hands on you. And he's, whether he does it with technique or whether he just muscles you to the ground, Gilbert is kind of like I had described. Who did I call? Jiri. He can be a force of nature. I've said that about Gilbert. I've said that about Merab. And looking at Merab's last performance, like not too many people would say a force of nature, but I've seen where you hit Gilbert Burns and that switch just goes off, and suddenly you're dealing with a berserker. Neil Magny, a much more measured approach. I just don't think he's going to take it to that next factor. Am I wrong in saying that I feel like this card is, other than the Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno fight, it's kind of easy to call? I kind of feel like there's, like, outside of that fight, like, we're going to talk about this Jessica Andrade, Lauren Murphy fight next. I think that's a fucking steamroll fight. I think Andrade is going to remind us that, like, this flyweight division, some of the older mainstays at flyweight, it's going to be a rough look. But Gilbert, I'm smashing I'm going all in on Gilbert Burns here.
I'm going to take Neil Magny.
Oh, walked me into the shocker. I was not expecting that at all.
No, I'm not taking the Magny.
Okay.
I think Gilbert's going to get lulled into a little bit of because he can get lulled into things like I just feel
Hamza,
like
he got pulled into a firefight with Hamza.
Yeah. I think he kind of fights to his competition. I think he's more of type of guy where if you're because I can't tell you why. I like Ngannou a lot. I always have. So
now, I think you make a terrific point about Gilbert fighting down to his competition, though, because I think, I mean, it's hard to kind of to express it, even looking at his fights here, and I have to kind of go down the memory lane a little bit, but Khamzat, it didn't need to be that way. I think he needed to work a little bit harder, and we know Khamzat's wrestling pedigree. He didn't fight down to his competition against Wonder Boy, but I mean, we know the Wonder Boy blueprint.
I just feel like Neil Magny's gonna clinch and knee the fuck out of him.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we have some parity.
Neil Magny by decision.
Neil Magny by decision. Yeah, if you're gonna go Neil Magny, it's gotta in this fight specifically, it's gotta be by decision. That's
3 rounds.
That's faux show.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we got our picks in for the top 3 fights of the night. I already kind of said where I'm going with Jessica Andrade, Lauren Murphy. If you want to give your pick for that, and we can.
I mean,
Lauren Murphy is a good fighter. She's bad,
very good. But she is very good.
But Jessica Andrade is made of something
in
else.
Brazil.
In Brazil, yeah.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting to bet that it's in Brazil, so it's a good Brazil card, honestly. Jessica Andrade, just a weird nothing fight for her. Also,
it sucks that Moicano's not fighting in Brazil, though.
Mm-hmm. As far as that Lauren Murphy Jessica Andrade fight, it's kind of a weird one. I don't know, given her, both of their last, performances or how they did against Valentina Shevchenko, that I don't know that there's much either of them can do to earn a rematch with her. I don't think they're going to be looking in that direction. If Jessica Andrade goes out there and absolutely steamrolls Lauren Murphy, I'm talking puts her in a crucifix and does, Erin Blanchfield things to her.
Yeah.
And if she wants it, if she demands it, if she says, yes, I am here for this flyweight title, I think she can get it, but she seems content to just jump up and down and murk bitches in different divisions. Yeah. So if she wants to do that, I think the UFC will indulge her and let her keep doing that. Last fight on the main card, Paul Craig, Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker does stupid things. He hits very hard. Paul Craig is a survivor. He knows how to play possum. I think Paul Craig's going to end up putting Johnny Walker in some kind of weird Paul Craig submission to get this one done. Oh, and I lost Brandon. There he is.
No, I lost you for a while there. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, no problem. I was just finishing up what I was saying, giving my pick. I'm going Paul Craig over Johnny Walker. Then you came back right as I was about to pass it to you. Paul Craig, Johnny Walker. You got a pick for this one?
I got Paul Craig. I think he really needs this. I think he really needs this bad. So I like Johnny Walker a lot, but I just think Paul Craig gets the win.
Okay, cool. And then the fight on the prelims that nobody should miss. Our boy Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop, is back against
my hero. My childhood hero is on this prelim card here. Mauricio Shogun Hua.
I don't know anything about Ihor.
Me either.
Otherwise, I would like to cover it, but I don't know if this is a guy who they're bringing in here to just smash Shogun.
I just want to say, Shogun Hua, to me, is always just soccer kick, fucking 20-some years old, kicking the shit with a bad body, beating the shit out of the most roided up people on the planet in Pride.
Yes. Just running through that 2005 Grand Prix, man.
That was, hung over at my friend Rob Diaz's house watching that on satellite dish. Man, everything to me.
Yes.
It was amazing. I was just like 18 or 17 years old watching that. And our eyes were just like on the screen. The fucking ticker tape the confetti falling on him, holding the trophy with the fucking big ass blue gloves. Just like it's in my head. The fucking jump. He knocking the shit out of Alistair Overeem. Just
diving through the guard, just a torpedo, and just turning Overeem off. And to anybody who hasn't seen that fight or is only familiar with Overeem, like the more recent incarnation of Alistair Overeem, you'll probably be pretty shocked to go back and see what Overeem used to look like before.
He used to come out with a big wooden mallet.
Yeah, the Demolition Man. Also, that knee bar that he put on Kevin Randleman, that was a nasty knee bar back in that day. Yeah, dude,
it's so sad. And then that's why I was such a big fan of John, because it was like this is gonna sound stupid, but it's like you've seen like that movie Minions, when like one villain kicks the shit out of the other one, and so they just go to the other villain. He like kicked the shit out of Shogun, and I'm like, well, I'm a John Jones fan now for life.
I like to just assume you don't ask me if I've seen the movie Minions. You're just like, have you seen the movie Minions?
Correct.
I've not seen the movie Minions, asshole.
But you just look like a dude who is like, 2 for Minions, please. And it's just because you want the seat next to you to be open.
I need a place to set my nachos down.
Yeah, dude, your nacho hat. And then his back and forth with Lyoto Machida was pretty badass too.
His fights with Little Nog, legendary.
Man. Just absolutely amazing, man. Yeah. Sad to see him go, but he's such a good guy. His voice, if you were to watch his highlights and then like hear him talk after, you'd just be like, what? That's the same, that voice just came out of that guy. So
got the Anderson Silva thing going on a little bit with his voice.
Yeah. Very crazy. Yeah.
A lot of good stuff on this undercard, actually. Not like the best matchups, but a lot of guys to watch, people you don't want to miss.
Our boy Jailton
Almeida, Shamil Ibrahimov, great fight. Well, not like I said, not like a fucking showstopper of a fight, but just always excited to see Jailton Almeida back in action, see if he's going to continue his dominance up the division. You got Terrence McKinney versus Ismail Bonfim. Josiane Nunes, which is like the only relevant.
I watched female. A couple. She can bang.
She just doesn't have anyone to fight. I mean, it's Josiane Nunes versus man, I'm blanking on Norma Dumont. Like that's really the only fight that I'm interested in seeing at featherweight, outside of either of them eventually fighting Amanda Nunes. Obviously,
she's like the second fight out of the gate. I might end up missing that one, which is sad. It's at 3, so I might end up. Well, I'm not going to miss it, but like I like to see him live.
Don't see it live, yeah.
Cody Stamann is a damn good fighter. I feel like he's a good fighter. I don't know why. I've seen him fight. I test for me. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong as fuck. I just feel like his losses aren't as bad as they might.
No, yeah. I mean, Saeed Nurmagomedov, Merab Dvalishvili, Jimmy Rivera. He's been up against some fucking stiff competition the last few years. So, by all means,
Jimmy Rivera has gotten so good. So,
yeah. All right, so let's transition over to the last segment that we're going to cover, and that is going to be our predictions for our championship predictions for 2023. On the awards episode, we kind of went back and we talked about the predictions that we gave for last year, who we thought was going to be champion still by the end of 2022. We were pretty much right down the middle. We were 6-6, so we tied. We got half of them right, half of them wrong. We're going to do this for the current champions. It's going to be a little bit weird because, well, for one, we can't really make a prediction for heavyweight because we already know
Sergey Pavlovich will be the champ by the end of the year.
I was going to say, so what I want to do is we can give our prediction for whether or not we think the current champ will retain or stay the champ, and we'll get a point for that if we get it right.
Okay.
And if we also pick who we think is going to be champion in place of them, and we get that right, we'll do 2 points. So you get a point just for, well, No, so I wouldn't say you can get a total of 3 points, because then that would be kind of stacking it. Because if you say, "Oh, the champion will be this person instead," I'm not going to give you a point for also declaring that the former guy's not going to be champ anymore. Figuring this out on the fly, but that's what we're going to do for heavyweight. I guess the total or the max amount of points that you can get for heavyweight will be 2, because right now it's just deciding who's going to be the heavyweight champ at the end of the year. So let's kick it off. I'll go to you first before I give my prediction. Heavyweight champion by the end of 2023. Who's going to be holding that strap, Brandon?
I think it'll change hands multiple times. I think by the end of the year, it'll be Sergey Pavlovich.
Going Sergey. Let me just put that in for Brandon's pick. That's an interesting pick. Do you? I'm not going to make you be like, okay, explain to me how it's going to be Sergey.
Yeah, smart guy.
I'm not going to do that, because I can't do that.
Explain the next 11 months.
Yeah, this shit can just be so weird. I mean, just look at how things are playing out with the light heavyweight title picture.
With the world.
But if you do have any kind of like, at any point have any predictions?
I think John's going to beat Cyril. I think Curtis Blades is going to shock John. And Sergey Pavlovich is going to beat Curtis Blades.
Dang. So the heavyweight title is going to be contested potentially, or for your prediction, about 3 times. Not outrageous at all, especially when you consider how fast heavyweight fights can end. I am going to say, and I'm stalling for time a little bit because I really haven't thought that much about this, and I'm totally thrown out.
I didn't think about it at all. It just came to me. It literally just came to me, and I'm that stupid. I'm that fucking dumb that I'll just say stupid shit.
I'll say Curtis Blades.
I can't disagree with you.
I'll say this: if you want an extra point, or no, not an extra point, but I will count this for 3 points. If you want to say that you think it will be vacant again or still vacant by the end of the year, I'll give you 3 points for that. But that's
I think Sergey Pavlovich will have it. He'll beat Curtis Blades for it at some point, and I think Curtis Blades is going to shock John.
Light heavyweight, no current champion. There will be, hopefully there will be a champion determined this weekend, but before we get to that, who do you think will be light heavyweight champion by the end of the year?
Alex Pereira.
That was my pick, you bitch. I'm not even kidding. That was
you bitch.
Fucking pick.
You fucking dirty bitch. Oh, man.
Fucking
I think it's Alex Pereira.
I think so too, because I think he has.
I think Yuri comes back and beats Glover, and that's the only way it happens. And then Alex is like that much of a hater that he's gonna be like, "You don't be my friend."
And Alex has to get the fuck out of that middleweight division if Hamzat's coming. He cannot fight Hamzat. I mean, he can fight Hamzat. He's gonna lose. But I think, being driven up in weight, it's a close cut for him. It sounds like, he has to really work to get to 185.
He's so huge.
Yeah. Oh, we're both geniuses. We're gonna be right.
Dude. So he just gets Adesanya just fucking ends his life. Like, he's like Christopher Reeve by the time this time next year, just fucking in a chair. Knock on wood that doesn't happen.
Painting pictures with his mouth.
Yeah.
He did mention earlier, or I saw an article saying that at least according to Pereira, that they already told him that if Israel Adesanya doesn't accept the rematch relatively soon, or they don't come to a date, it's going to be Whitaker. So that'll be interesting. Middleweight, Pereira, the current champion. What do you? Or I'll go first for who I see.
Robert Whitaker's the champ.
I said I'll go first.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So it wasn't the same pick anyway. So Brandon is going Whitaker.
You bitch.
For me, I'm gonna say Hamzat.
Ooh. I don't think Hamzat can beat Whitaker.
Khamzat Chimaev. I don't know. A lot of people keep saying, and I think it's true, but I don't necessarily think it's like, he's
Hamzat will be champ. He will be the champ. Not as long as Robert Whitaker is.
Not if it goes through Whitaker. Interesting take.
Yeah.
Okay. Welterweight, current standing champion is Leon Edwards. We already know. That's something we didn't mention at the top of the episode. They already went ahead and announced that they booked his fight with Kamaru Usman, the rematch, and that's going to be for, I had it up. Is it 285? 280? It's happening. Who cares? So, Who do you think is going to be champ by the end of 2023?
Oh man, shit. I mean, Hamzat could. I think Hamzat has a better chance of taking welterweight than he does. I will say Shavkat Rakhmonov will be the welterweight champ by the end of 2023.
Shavkat. I was thinking if you hadn't picked Shavkat, I might have said Shavkat, but I want to make a different pick just because we already went the same on
Mikel Pereira.
I'm gonna say Usman will get his title back and still be and be champ by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Lightweight. This one could be easy, or you can shock me.
Which I feel like I have already. No, I think Islam's going to be the champ for another 2 years, easy.
I do too. Islam. Featherweight. Alexander Volkanovski. We see a change of the guard by the end of the year.
You go first on this one, Don, because
I got Volk. I think he's going to retain, or I think he'll still hold on to it before the end of the year. And we both picked Islam, you know what I mean? So we're both basically saying we think, Islam's going to beat Volkanovski. If Volkanovski beats Islam, I think, like a lot of other people think that, Volkanovski could and should probably stay at lightweight and just vacate the featherweight title. I think there's more, marquee fights for him there. I think he has more money-making potential there. All right, can you hear me? You're looking at me weird, like.
No, I can. Yeah, okay. I can hear
you. But since we're picking Islam, in that fight, then I'm thinking Volkanovski stays at featherweight, and I think he still continues to run shit there. As tempted as I would be to say Ilia Topuria, but I don't know if Ilia Topuria gets that fight before the end of the year.
He's got a few guys he's got to run through.
I think so.
I think Sadiq Youssef and Ilia is going to have to happen. I feel like Mobzar is going to have to happen for some shit to pop off with Volk.
You going Volk also?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Bantamweight.
Bantamweight is a little rougher for me. I just... It's not going to be Aljamain.
Don't hesitate.
I feel like it's going to be
the rank.
Cheeto Vera.
Cheeto Vera. This one I need to take a peek at the rankings. If I got them open, let's see. Tapology, please. When I click on the rankings link on your front page, and you take me to the page that has the rankings, literally just give me all of the weight rankings. Like, I want to rant about this on a future episode, because Tapology, like, the most efficient way to get to the specific rankings you want to look at is to find a fighter's page who is that ranking, and then click on bantamweight rankings from his page. It's just a fucking thing, man. I hate it. I'm going to say, man, I think it might be Henry Cejudo, which I didn't even need to look at the rankings for that, because he's not in the rankings right now. But
it's going to be Cheeto Vera, dude. Don't even worry about it. I'll call it for you.
Let me go ahead and type down. So you put Cheeto Vera, and I'm going Cejudo. I hope it's not Cejudo. But, okay. Flyweight. Figueiredo.
Brandon Moreno will be the flyweight champ.
Brandon is going with Brandon. And I'm going to fucking finally say it. I don't know if maybe I would have mentioned him last year when we did this, but I think I'm going to put it on Pantoja. I think he finally gets his shot.
Yeah, way to go, man. That's cool.
Way to go out on a limb, guy.
I love, me, but
yeah,
I just like Brandon Moreno a little bit more.
I feel that. Okay. Easy mode for a few divisions. Women's featherweight, women's bantamweight. I guess those are both Nunes. I will still make you make a prediction for featherweight, though.
I mean, she holds on to both of them if she's not retired by the time. But I think she has another year.
Nunes. I'm going to go with the technicality, and I'm going to say that by the end of 2023, there won't be a women's featherweight division anymore.
Is that right?
I'm going to go with nobody because it doesn't exist anymore. But when it comes to bantamweight, Nunes, that's where I'm going to agree with you. I'm not even going to ask you who you think it's going to be.
We could probably skip a few weight classes on the next couple drop downs here.
Flyweight, Shevchenko. You going to go ahead and... Should I assume? Okay.
Correct.
Chev. And me, as much as I would love to be a simp to one of my new favorite WMMA fighters, I don't think that Erin Blanchfield's going to get it done.
I don't think they'll give it to her yet. I think they'll be smart. They'll come up with some weird shit. They're going to want to put Blanchfield in a position to win. I feel like if they're smart, they should.
I think they're probably reading the tea leaves right now and trying to gauge how much more mileage they have on Valentina Shevchenko also. Because it does, I think it would benefit them to kind of like have the handoff and try and install a new potential long reigning champion there. But I mean, there's also Tatiana Suarez factor, but she's not so clear about whether she's going to stay at flyweight or not. Anyways, I'm not going to get too far into the weeds, WMMA, but I'll also take Chev there.
Yeah.
Strawweight, Weili Zhang.
Yeah. This is like the only hard one. But I don't see how anyone else... like I said, I think she may be... I think this is the year she cracks top 5 pound for pound. So I don't think anybody can. And as much as me and the land that she's from, she's a transcendent person and fighter for a guy like me to say that. As what's the word I'm looking for? Xenophobic as I am, I feel like she's just she's gonna crack pound for pound. She's gonna do some interesting shit. If she does not pop Forrest over.
I'm right there with you. I think right now for this year, I think her biggest, her only threat, at least as far as girls who have earned a title shot or close to title contention, Amanda Lemos. I think it's all but confirmed that that's going to be the fight for her next. And I mean, some people might say, well, Rose is still out there. Rose can still work her way into a title shot, and that is true. And Rose does have 2 wins over Zhang Weili. For my money, I thought Zhang won the rematch, and I think by the time they lock up with what we've seen of Rose and the kind of what would we say, downward trend after her loss to Carla Esparza, it's going to be tough for me to envision her coming out and just suddenly. I mean, she's done it though, but to come out and revamp her game and just turn it around and switch the script on Weili Zhang again. I'm also gonna go with Weili Zhang on this one because I think Amanda Lemos is gonna be the toughest test. I think she's gonna pass it. After that, I think it should be smooth sailing for the rest of the year at least. Yeah. So that's it. That's our picks in heavyweight. I'll do a quick recap. Brandon's picks for heavyweight. He thinks it's going to be Sergey Pavlovich. He's picking Pereira for light heavyweight. He's picking Whitaker to become the middleweight champion again by the end of 2023. At welterweight, he's going with our boy Shavkat Rakhmonov. At lightweight, we are both in agreement that it's going to be Islam. Same with featherweight, Volk. Bantamweight, Brandon is going with Marlon Chito Vera. At flyweight, he's going with Brandon Moreno. Women's featherweight, women's bantamweight, women's flyweight. You're picking all of the champions to still be champions there. So Nunes, Shevchenko, and we're both going with Zhang. For myself, I went with Curtis Blades for heavyweight. For light heavyweight, we're in agreements on Pereira. Also, I went with Khamzat for middleweight. For welterweight, I think it's going to be kind of a boring pick. I think Usman will be the champion again. Lightweight, we both went Islam, Volkanovski. I'm going with Henry Cejudo at bantamweight. I hope I'm wrong. For flyweight, I'm going with Alexandre Pantoja.
I love that pick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I think for our women's champion, I'm the only one who went a wild card on women's featherweight. I'm predicting that there will not be a women's featherweight division anymore, so there won't be a champion there. And then Nunes, Shevchenko, Zhang. This concludes our
Watch
UFC.
out for Yan Chonan this year also.
I think she'll be there. Yeah, she's the strides she made. I always have to mention how much the growth that she's made training with Team Alpha Male. And so yeah, she's definitely going to be a factor at the top of that division, and that'll be an interesting fight if they get the Chinese girls in there locking horns. That's going to be a fun one, especially if they want to go to China or go back to Singapore or something like that. That's definitely going to be a feather in their cap for as far as matchmaking potential. So yeah, like I was saying, that concludes our 2023 championship predictions. We'll circle back around, go over our picks, see how wrong or right we were. Maybe at some point halfway throughout the year, we'll come up with some stipulations or sweeten the pot a little bit, or some bets. Brandon still owes us a DAG.
I have to dress up like a DAG. I said that I would for the. I thought for the Volk Islam fight card, that preview show.
That's right. Yeah,
I'll do it.
Say that. Okay. Yeah. So looking forward to that. And don't hate us if we forget, because I kind of
I'll do it
right now. But yeah, that's all fun. Thanks again for joining me.
I just didn't want to do it because I took Christmas pictures with my kids, and I didn't want to look like a fucking psychopath.
That's fair.
Like, dang, dude, you really went all out for like the cold weather theme.
More than fair. I mean, you wouldn't have to. I'm picturing you taking the photo, the family photos with the fucking wig on, things like you just
a little baby bear, my son and a baby bear.
Well, Brandon, another episode in the bag. Thanks for joining me again, everyone. If you like this episode, please hit like, subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And we will see you on the next one. Take care. Peace.
Yep.